Hi, everybody, and welcome to your Physics 2 in the spring here at Randolph College. A couple of you had me for your Physics 1 class. That's the 1105 class online recently, but a lot of you didn't. So welcome. So this class, I'm going to go over a bunch of things. We run everything through Moodle. So I'll talk about that in a second. But I'm going to point out a bunch of things that you need for class and give you a little introduction. Okay. So just so everybody knows, this class is completely asynchronous. That means there's no time that you have to be in class on Zoom or something like that. You're doing stuff on your own time. However, we do have deadlines in the class, and that's meant to just keep you on track because it's really easy to get behind. So let's, all try to go by those deadlines. If there's something that is a problem, you can always reach out to me, but try to stay on task. Okay. So first things first, we run through Moodle, and the way you can get onto Moodle is that you go to moodle.randolphcollege.edu. You can see that up here. And then you log in with your Randolph College credentials. Now, if you should all have a Randolph College email. That's where this is going. This video is going to, which you probably clicked on the link that I sent in an email. So if your Randolph College email is, for instance, mine is kshank@randolphcollege.edu. So when you go to the Moodle page, you'll log in with kshank or your own version of kshank and your password, right? So whatever is right before @ is that is your username in Moodle. To be clear, don't use kshank. Okay. All right. So when you get in, you'll see something that looks like this, and it'll probably look almost exactly like this. I may have made some changes. And the first thing you see here is a big calendar. There's also a syllabus, which is, got a lot more information for you. But here is a calendar of all the things and when they're due. Okay. Now you can print this out in black and white. The colors do mean a little something. Like, for instance, you'll see that the actual lab reports, which we'll talk about in a second, or other things that are due, except the pre-labs, are in red, but really the colors don't matter. So I would advise you to print this out and look at it, right? And have it on your desk, on your wall, and so you can know where everything's due and what's coming up. All right. So class starts on Monday. And right away, you're going to have a few things, preliminary things to do. Now, those of you who are in 1105, you've already done these, just do them again. But this is meant to sort of make sure you know what you need to know to get going in the lab. And then every lab has a pre-lab and a suggested date to do the lab. Okay, so what does that mean? So the pre-lab is a little quiz, and I'm going to scroll down and show you. And then we have a day that is suggested for you to do the lab. You don't have to do it that day, but it's a good idea to try to be like, okay, I'm going to work on that lab on that day. Okay. You don't have to sit on Zoom or anything like that. You can do it at your own time, on your own time. But it's a suggestion to keep you on track. Okay. So let's just look at lab 1. Lab 1 has a pre-assignment, which is a little quiz in Moodle to kind of get you ready for the lab. Then maybe you can work on that Monday. And then the actual thing that is due for that lab, which is basically another quiz. That's what informal report means. See, it says informal here, is not due till the 21st at midnight. Okay. So that's kind of how this works. You can kind of see we have, a few the pattern is really you'll have a pre-lab on Sunday, a suggested day to do a lab on Monday, then you have a pre-lab on Wednesday and a suggested time to do a lab on Thursday, etc. Right? This is how this goes in general. And this calendar covers all the way until we end class on the 26th. Okay. I'm going to go over those first few things in a second, but let me just point out that I have office hours, Mondays 1 to 3, Thursdays 1 to 3. I suggest that you actually text me with questions. I mean, you're free to come to office hours, but you may need an answer on a Saturday night or something, right? So if you text me, I can get right back to you. Emailing me is fine too, but just remember that I'm probably checking texts more than I'm checking emails. Don't expect an answer if you're, if you're texting me at 11 p.m., right? I might not answer till the next day. Okay, but can be a little easier than trying to come in on office hours when you may have been doing the lab some other time or whatever. Okay, but feel free. There's a little thing that shows you the contents of the lab kit. Those should be arriving next week. The first few labs don't require the lab kit, so you're good. Make sure though that you do get it. All right. And I'll show you when you should get it by to make sure. So keep an eye out. All right. And there's a rubric for formal labs, which I'm probably going to move this actually down to where our first formal lab is, and I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so first of all, the first few things that are due up here in red, up here, they're in this preliminaries. All right, you can see almost right away you have stuff to do. Okay. All right, and now each lab will have its own section. So like here's the section for lab 1. It shows you that the lab kit's not required. It's an informal report type. And I tell you the suggested day to do the lab. Okay. And then a to-do list. Do the pre-lab at a certain time, turn in the report quiz on a certain day, etc. And then there's all the information. There's the manual. What are you supposed to do? There's the pre-lab. It's a quiz in Moodle. Okay. And then there's all kinds of hints. A link to a simulation we use, a file of data, so all kinds of stuff you'll need. And then the informal report, again, is a quiz on Moodle. So this is your report. You don't write up a report for this one, you take a quiz. Okay. And then there's a question form, which is great for you to interact with other students who may have the same questions as you, right? Okay. You should ask any questions for me, though, through text or something. Okay. All right. And then here's lab 2, just as an example. Again, the to-do list, lots of info, the manual, the pre-lab, the informal report quiz. Now let's go to the first time you're going to have to write a formal lab. Okay. So that is here in lab 3, which is the optics lab. And it tells you that the report type is a formal written and you don't need the lab kit. And then it tells you that here, for instance, here it tells you to read a chapter in your college, in your OpenStax college physics book, which is some of you may not actually be in the lecture course. If that's the case, and you don't know what I'm talking about when I say your OpenStax college physics book, you can literally type into Google OpenStax college physics book, and the link will pop right up. Okay. And so the idea is here to read that information because you know, sometimes the lecture course is just not in sync with the lab course at all. And that's generally can be the case for physics classes. So you may not have done any optics by the time you have to do a lab in optics. The good news is that if you read that book and then you do the lab and then optics comes later in your lecture course, you will feel a lot more comfortable. So that's sometimes you're going to be out of sync with the actual lecture course, or some of you may not even be in the lecture course, like I said. Okay. But that's what that means. Now, because this is a formal write-up, there's guidelines that I wrote here. There's a quiz on those guidelines to make sure that you understand them, right? And then links to the simulation you need, the pre-lab. And then here you can see with a little hand, this is not a quiz. You have to actually upload a file, okay? And you'll know a lot about what you have to do for that file when you get there. Okay, but that's our first formal report. And as you can see, each lab has deadlines and different things that you have to do all the way down to lab 10, which is our last lab. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's all I need to tell you for you to get started. So if you notice, right, you don't really need that lab, the lab kit until lab 4, which starts, you know, the pre-lab is 327. So, I mean, keep an eye out for that. Don't let it be 326 and you're like, oh no, I don't have the lab kit, right? You need to tell me before that. They're already in the mail, so they should be getting to you soon. So if you don't get it, like, please keep an eye out and keep aware that you're gonna need it, and you don't want to be, you know, right before this lab where you're like, uh-oh, I forgot to make sure I have that lab kit. Okay. So please text me with questions. You can email me, of course, as well. And we'll see you in class. And I hope you have a good time and try to keep up.